Hey everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. We've just finished another batch of exciting and inspiring conversations. So here's a recap for you with some highlights of their episodes. If you haven't seen or listened to these episodes yet, this is the sign for you to do so. So, Eleazar Tayag started us off with the roles physical therapists play in hospice care. In PT Meal Live Handaan, with Fretche, Garcia, Blair, and Consie, Aguila, Ben Aguila shared horror stories by colleagues regarding employers or recruiters' dark schemes. Eric and Anthony Galvez, a PT and brain tumor survivor, shared lessons he learned as a patient that his fellow PTs can learn from, as well as some advice to fellow brain tumor thrivers. Next, Marvin Zotomayor answered when he was ready to talk about or go about coping, failing in some courses in physical therapy school. Lastly, Riza Carlton, another PT turned patient story, shared what family members and caregivers do in providing awesome care to their loved ones or patients with dementia. Indeed, these batch of guests provided us first-hand experiences and unique perspectives coming from people who actually face adversities in their life and showed us that we're not alone and that we can prevail and succeed. Now, here they are again. Speaking of physical therapy, with hospice service, what is the role of physical therapists? You mentioned earlier that we have a vital role in this care as well. So,
Actually, the physical therapists are a very valuable part of the team. If hospice agencies would recognize the value of what we do.
Okay.
So, and especially when it comes to symptom control or comfort control. So when it comes to symptom control or comfort control, like when it comes to management of pain, there's a lot of non-pharmacologic ways that physical therapists can do, like myofascial release, soft tissue massage. It can also be modalities. I know, in the PT world, modalities are not really the thing now, but for hospice patients that is going through a lot of let's assume nerve pain or cancer pain and all that, let's assume a TENS unit can actually provide some type of pain relief. And also we can, like what you said, when it comes to durable medical equipment, or let's say consultation for a brace, or things like that, we can also be very, very valuable for that. Just imagine a patient with post-stroke, for example. Maybe a splint or a brace can help, especially for a flaccid, painful arm, for example. Positioning to prevent pressure sores, lessening pain, preventing contractures, helping the patient breathe a little better, or something like that. We can be very, very valuable on that aspect. As simple as energy conservation, setting up the room, setting up the home. There are patients that need to walk, right, to at least maintain their function. If they get extremely short of breath, for example, there is a metastasis in the lungs. So minimal exertion causes shortness of breath. We can set up the home where there can be a chair every 10 feet or something like that until they get to their kitchen, and so on and so forth. Energy conservation technique is also very important, and also gait training, transfer, safety instructions, teaching the caregiver how to properly position patients, teaching caregivers how to, do the home exercise for help the patients do home exercise program. Edema management, for example, is a breast cancer patient where, the arm is very, very swollen, and it's causing a lot of pain. Edema management can also be part of it. So equipment recommendations as well, like what we were talking about, modification of the placement of the bed, the wheelchair during transfers, the shower chair, and so on and so forth. These are the things that a PT can actually help the patients and the families with. So we have that direct patient care, at the same time the educator trainer role, especially when we teach the patients and the family members. So the thing there is, sometimes we forget that there are certain patients that their mobility or the ability to move, especially those ones that have always been very independent, creates that sense of self. So if they're just on their deathbed, being able to get out of the bed, walk, do certain things for themselves, restores that sense of self for a lot of patients. And that is, I would say, some kind of comfort care, if you ask me.
Sabi sa akin nung tao, ang horror story niya, in-sponsor siya ng Filipino recruiter. Right? Pagdating dito, hindi pa rin maayos yung bayad. Pero ang binabanta ng recruiter is kapag hindi ka sumunod, hindi mo madadala yung asawa at anak mo.
Madalas ganyan, tama.
Right? Ang tindi, men. So talagang minsan pala, kunwari, syempre, bagong graduate ka na Pinoy, or, economic opportunities very hard in the Philippines. Papayag ka na ikaw lang mag-isa, pero pwede pala kayong lahat. Pero kasi kung ako salbahin na employer, pwede mong gamitin na leverage yun eh.
Yeah.
Imagine mo yun? Pag hindi ka sumunod sa akin, hindi mo makikita yung anak mo lumalaki. So talagang mind-blowing yung mga naririnig ko. And really, and Johan will attest to this, maraming ganitong kwento, pero you have to understand, going through the process, when I went through my process, it's legitimate trauma.
Yeah.
I think nagkaroon ako ng obesity, nagkaroon ako ng depression, nagkaroon ako ng deep-seated anger na for the longest time, Consie, hindi ko ma-place kung saan kasi dun sa ginawa sa akin ng employer ko. And when you feel that way, kapag may nangyari sa'yo, maraming kababayan, hindi na instinct ikwento. Kasi pag kinuwento mo yun, parang mo akuin na parang ako, naloko ako, o naisahan ako, which is for the delight of the employers, because that's more money. Kasi hindi mo ngayon mga warningan yung iba. So this is my invitation sa lahat ng mga parang baka naloko, and hopefully wala na sa inyo, pero just in case maloko kayo, ang pwede niyong gawin na walang pwede kayong parusahan, sabihin niyo yung informal networks niyo. And I told Johan this, and I'm going to tell you people, Google knows everything. Google knows everything. Lahat ng mga law dockets ng Amerika, mag-google nyo. So pag may nag-hire sa inyo, meron totoong pangalan yan, i-google nyo, Office of the Attorney General, Recruiter XY. Or Recruiter XY, Department of Labor Violation. Malalaman yun. So, I'll segue yung aking kwento na, Johan, habang hindi na tayo. Noong early 2000s, no less than 2 or 3 of my friends was pinahirapan ng isang certain recruiter sa Northeast. Right? Ngayon, para kasuhan ka ng government, hindi sila basta-basta gagalaw. Normally, mas malamang gagalaw sila pag sobrang baho na ng ginawa mo at sobrang dali mo i-prosecute. Does that make sense? Kasi syempre, hindi naman interesado ang Attorney General na matalo sila, right? They need like strong evidence. May isang company na nahuli na $3 million ng back wages was due to 156 workers. Doon pala, magugugulo nila kung sino yun eh. Anyways, ang nangyari to, nahuli sila, nung sinundan ko yung court case docket, nag-settle. So by the letter of the law, wala nangyari, right? Kasi pa nagseto, wala kang inamin, right? Pero ito yung magic. Ito yung plot twist. Nagsarado yung nakasuhan na company, nagbukas ulit, nag-advertise ngayon sa Filipino PT.
Oh,
on a different name.
Under a
oh,
different name.
yeah,
My goodness. Ang galing.
yeah.
What lesson have you learned that other physical therapists can learn from as well?
Well, first off, I think that, you got to remember that the patients that you meet and the patients that you're working with are humans, and you got to realize that, especially when they're being kind of disagreeable. So there's definitely a reason why they're being difficult or whatnot. So, I think that's the main thing. You got to just remember that there's a human side to the patient. And you just got to remember that, like, there's always a way. Like, one of the things that they really harped on us in physical therapy school was, functional goals. And I think occupational therapy does a great job of this. But, find out what your patient really wants to do, and what their goals are, and just apply that to whatever exercises or walking goals that you have. This is where I think I enjoyed physical therapy the most, was being creative. Use that creativity to make your sessions more enjoyable for both the patient and for you.
So that this added motivation in the session. You mentioned about like looking at the human side of patients. When you were in therapy, have you had that experience of oh, this is what my patient was talking about? When you're doing the PT for them, have you had that like aha moment or epiphany?
Yeah, well, one of the things that, like, I like to think that I wasn't a difficult patient, but looking back on things, I think I might have been, just because, like, I knew the therapist very well, and I knew the procedures in the hospital. So I used to like to give everyone a hard time. I would pretend to fall and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, I'm kind of a goofball, so like I like to joke around. But yeah, like I think I don't think that people didn't like working with me, but I think I could have been difficult at some time.
Yeah,
We'll have to have some therapists that work with me, though.
were you working with your former coworkers? Oh, okay.
These are the people I used to go to lunch with. These are the people I used to go to happy hours with. So, there's definitely a relationship before,
before
the
that
actual
happened.
PT patient relationship. So,
Yeah.
definitely a strange situation.
What do you want to share with any brain tumor survivors that might be listening to our episode today?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think if you really want to do something, you just have to be creative. Like, I think anything is still possible. It's just, it might not be exactly the way that you think it's going to happen. Like, I really think if you really want to do something, there is a way to do it. It's just, you have to figure it out. And that's always been the fun part for me. I always love solving puzzles.
When did you reach that point na I am okay? I can talk about this. I'm ready to move forward from it. I won't let this hold me back. I won't let this dictate what I put out in the world.
More on no, yung question mo kuya is more on how do we go about that situation, no? For me, it's yung sinabi mo kuya, yung conversation yun ng student, actually yun na yung sagot. That we should also talk about it. No? that's yun yung naging way ko to cope up with what I went through. And I don't want to be the toxic positivity
Mhm.
person for those who are struggling,
Mhm.
because mahirap yung, I mean, hindi tayo pare-parehas ng pinagdadaanan,
Uh-uh.
but the mere fact na may tao din na hindi straightforward ang
Mhm.
success
Mhm.
could have been ano eh, could also shed light, no, to people going through darkness.
Mhm.
No, it is through conversations
Mhm.
that we get to be with one another. It is through conversations that we get to appreciate each other. It is through conversations that we get to appreciate life.
True. I agree. Yeah. Kasi I mean the if the parang we're talking about it and making it normal. Parang it's not as a big thing as being, hiding it and being ashamed of it. And we're not like in your face now. Oh, I failed and look at me now. Parang hindi naman sa ganun, but
Mm.
I feel that having, students know that there are people who have experienced the same thing as they are experiencing, similar to, what they're experiencing, they can have that um, hope
Mhm.
and see that it's not the end of everything. It's not something that you can dwell on it now, but see that there are people who have been through that,
Mhm.
and it's okay, and you're
Mhm.
not alone. Yun
Mhm.
yun yun
Yun.
lang, yun lang okay na eh.
Ayan kuya, no? Yung sinabi mo kanina na nakakahiya yun. Kasi actually totoo yan, no? That's a common thing that I get to also reflect on with my students and previous students na pag nakipag kapag pag sinabi mo yun sa ibang tao, nakakahiya maging vulnerable sa ibang tao.
Mhm.
Where
True.
in fact, it is through that we get to appreciate. Tayo parang nakakapagpagaan siya ng loob, no, in general. Kasi ang hirap kung papasanin mo siya ng ikaw lang,
Mhm.
no? It's really it's yon.
Mhm.
It's it's a heavy burden.
Mhm.
On my end, talagang ano, no, yung una kong bagsak, hindi talaga ako nakakipag-usap sa ibang tao na
Mhm.
ano, na within the realm of ano, within the industry or within ano, yeah, mga ganun. Kasi parang feeling ko nakakahiya.
Mhm.
Then even on my second ano, failure, sabi ko parang hindi ko na gagawin ulit 'yon, pero pag-iigihan ko na ngayon. 'Yun yung naramdaman ko back then. So it's really up to us,
Mhm.
no? And how the culture or how are we going to make sure that the culture won't eat us up, won't eat us. Kasi kung isipin nating maigi, no, um, nasa sa atin din ang solusyon.
Mhm.
Regardless kung paano 'yon,
Mhm.
no? Nasa sa atin pa rin ang solusyon. Kung paano tayo pinalaki or hinulma ng sosyedad na kinabibilangan natin, baka gano'n din yung maging rason. Yun din yung ano, yun din yung maging um, solution mo to your dilemma. Pero kung magiging objective ka at kung gaano mo kagamay yung sarili mo, you would know. You really would know. For
That. Kasi di ba in the Philippines, people or patients need to be referred by a physician first, a primary care practitioner, and that uh, pose some struggles and barriers, problems for our patients. One of those is cost, and second is access. So anyway, let's probably start with what I prepared here. So the APTA, the American Physical Therapy Association, has released a position on primary care physical therapy. They said that physical therapists make unique contributions as individuals or members of the primary care teams, and are entry point providers in the healthcare system. Physical therapists provide a broad range of services to optimize movement, including screening, examination, evaluation, diagnosis, prognosis, intervention, coordination of care, prevention, wellness, and fitness, and when indicated, referral to other providers. With with this definition ng American Physical Therapy Association, to my colleagues in the Philippines, di ba, it's something that we also do and believe that we do in there as physical therapists, right? So we screen, we examine, we evaluate, we have our physical therapy diagnosis, we provide some prognosis on the conditions, we provide intervention, and we coordinate care with the patient. We are part of the prevention spectrum, primary prevention, secondary, tertiary, and we can also provide wellness and fitness interventions. And we can also say that the patient may need some referral to other specialties. So, yung yung position ng APTA can also be, reflect what as Filipino physical therapists in the Philippines have been, talking about since, since matagal na. Um, so this study by Charles was became popular in social media when it was released. Sorry, medyo giniginawa ko kasi malamig dito sa kwarto. So yung ano na yung study ni Childs, it was in 2005. They examined the knowledge of um, physicians as well as physical therapists in managing musculoskeletal conditions. So aside, excluding the physicians who are trained in orthopedics, let me try to maximize that for everyone. Yun. So aside from this, physicians who are practicing in orthopedics, physical therapists demonstrated more knowledge than other physicians in the study. No?
Because in part of my teaching, because I do community service and I teach to the communities, and one of my presentation is about understanding the brain with dementia. The executive part of the brain, the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, we learned that in physical therapy school, right? And they are responsible for higher level thinking skills.
Mhm.
That's problem solving, decision making, and safety judgment. Now the limbic system is the memory and emotion centers of the brain.
Mhm.
And that's the brain that is spared
Mhm.
in the loved one with Alzheimer's and dementia. That's why you mentioned about music therapy is good,
Mhm.
because we're stimulating that emotion brain
Mhm.
and taking them. So if they're frustrated, they're agitated. I have an example, like working in a memory care unit in an assisted living facility. You know how they're in a jerry chair or wheelchair, non-verbal. No kidding you, how many times my hair was pulled and grabbed.
Mhm.
Yep. And then holding me tight, because those are the reflexes, right? And I teach the staff, you don't yank your hand, because the more that they will grip and hold. And that's my teaching with them is use music therapy or touch therapy. So when they're grabbing you, do a gentle stroke. And I'm not a singer, but I love to sing. I would hum
Mhm.
with hum a song with them, because I'm stimulating the limbic system.
Mhm.
And that will make them relax and let go. So
Mhm.
staff are seeing it. it's working. The later stage of dementia with the patients in a wheelchair, it's a struggle to transfer them from the wheelchair to bedtime,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And music therapy, touch are very effective, because you're building trust. Like you
Right.
said, if they don't know you, I mean, the developmental age comparison of the brain, moderate stage of dementia, they think like toddlers.
Mhm.
If I don't know you, you're not familiar, I don't trust you,
Exactly.
right? And there's fear, like, who is this person? So providing the positive approaches using touch therapy, music, stimulating that emotion brain,
Mhm.
they tend to loosen up and build
Mhm.
up that trust.
True. Yeah.
Mhm.
It really have to the caregivers really need to make an effort to be somewhat of a safe space for for the patient. The patient feels what you feel. You know, if they feel that you're somewhat of a threat, that you're upset,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
they'll be upset and they'll be fearful and guarded. So, more of my approach back then, and even with my grandfather when she experienced that, is shower him with care and trying to bring back, memories of happy times when we were, back when we were younger, when she was younger and when I was younger, to elicit that, oh, I am your grandson, I am this, we did this, we were close, so that we can build some trust. He would listen to me, he would follow my instructions. But if introducing a caregiver that doesn't really exude an effort to care, then the patient would really sense that it's going to be hard for a caregiver to approach a patient with dementia if the care isn't really there and it's not authentic. And if you're